Juergen Kuebler from IBM. You're going to be there at June the 7th in Amsterdam to talk about the forming of alliances. And we're going to talk about examples and what IBM has to offer in that direction, and especially also lessons learned. But give me your introduction about what you do there at IBM.
Thank you, Vincent. It will be an exciting conference. My role in IBM is to help with the formation of consortia on a global basis for all industry platforms. And my particular focal points are governance, tokenization, and monetization of those networks.
Yeah. So we're talking, you just came from India, I met you in New York, you're in Denver. So is this, can I assume that you do this all over the world?
Yes, and after this interview, I will have to go to Tokyo.
Yeah, and you've done hundreds of these projects. I mean, it's really busy at the moment, right? It's and forming consortia is a real an art form, and a voodoo. What needs to be done? What kind of different alliances are formed? What kind of consortia? What kind of do you see?
Vincent, there's in fact three different kinds. The first kind is when a very large company like Walmart, like a Kroger, decides to do a blockchain-based network for themselves and their suppliers and customers. Mm-hmm. So this is typically geared towards cost takeout, and it will never leave that realm, right? Now, the interesting networks all over the world that form are industry-based networks, or a network where you have a network of competitors in a particular industry. Mm-hmm. And those are predicated on a use case that really helps everybody in that network to achieve a goal. One example would be in utility industry, cybersecurity, or trading of renewable energy credits. So that would be interesting to all of these participants, mm-hmm. and henceforth blockchain with that added layer of trust above their existing systems we're not trying to replace is an interesting possibility to create new business models. And then the third one would be the most exciting one. Is when companies from different industries come together around a particular use case and really be able to do something that hasn't been done before. For example, a car that has an identity that now pays, for gas or for other things.
Or mining companies who are working together with all kinds of in the supply chain to prove that a particular metal is how do you say that?
It's responsibly sourced.
So that you can see that that particular metal is responsibly sourced. Yeah, okay. Yep. And how do you do that? How do you get all these companies to agree on the rules, on the governance, on the monetization, on going in and out? That sounds complicated.
Well, when you think about, when forming a network of that magnitude, in average, in our experience, takes about 2 to 2.5 years. However, we have found certain shortcuts by making a lot of mistakes along the way, mm-hmm. and having learned from them. And I think one of the critical pieces is that you sit together, and you mentioned already that catalog of rules and a catalog of rules to change the rules, and really get together and sign and agree in a non-legally binding form. So you really rally around 14 dimensions, that have to do with IP, that have to do with who talks to the media, that have to do with what happens if somebody joins, what happens if somebody leaves. And you do that in an MOU type, a Memorandum of Understanding type, so in a non-legally binding way. So once you then get to the consortium contract, there's no surprises.
Yeah, okay. And then, of course, I mean, apart from the rules, it's extremely important that you have a certain working together, and that people like each other, and that they have a long-term vision, just like with normal cooperation. Is there anything particular in blockchain projects? Is it any different than if you just have another cooperation between a lot of different companies to accomplish some kind of a business rule?
It is different, Vincent, simply because you can. So think of all these participants that you bring together around the table. They all have their systems of record, and they will continue to hang on to them. The investments into them is too high. Mm-hmm. But you create this thin layer of trust on top of these systems. And because you can do that now, you really can create that level of trust that has been missing in all these prior attempts, where you know each other very much, and you learn for a long time, and one of these is in Russia, and one of these in South America. You may have never met, and you can now create that level of trust without having known each other for a long time. And that's what's different, that's what's new, and that's what most of the people can now believe, but there's still a little hesitance at the beginning to, well, is this really the way you tell me to, Vincent, right? Yeah. And once this is understood, and this is typically what we have spent the last 2 years to get these POVs, right? These MVPs, these early tests. People had to be convinced that this is actually working, and you cannot hack into this, and it is secure. And now that you can create this level of trust, I think the sky's the limit of possibilities you can apply.
How many of those projects have you been involved with in the last 2 or 3 years?
Personally, in about 200, a little bit more, and again, about 24 at a very, very close involvement.
Thank you that on your way from India to America to Japan to all over the world that you're going to be in Amsterdam for a very short period to share those kinds of very interesting mistakes you've made and which are now best practices. I'm sure you've learned a lot, and we are looking forward to seeing them. Thank you very much.
It will be awesome. See you soon.